Wedding planners? What was the worst way you ended up ruining someone's wedding? Random story. My wife was running her friend's wedding, standing at the back of the venue and sending bridesmaids down the aisle. I was off to the side of the stage running the music, and we were both in touch over the phone. On stage, there's the unity candle, 2 small candles to either side, and a big one in the center that the bride and groom light simultaneously during the ceremony. The groom's mother goes to the stage and lights one. The bride's mother goes to the stage and lights the unity candle. My wife and I see this simultaneously, and she whispers to me to fix it. So I wait until the bride is walking down the aisle and every single person in the room is looking at her. Then I sneak up on stage, blow out the unity candle, and light the smaller one. Nobody, even the bride, saw me do it. I was the wedding ninja for the day. Next story. As the best man in several recent weddings, an event staffer is the best place for blame. On the most recent one, the mother of the bride was utterly insane, and we had a couple small things that we noticed right away were going to go wrong. They were fine, but the mother of the bride was going to go insane because it wasn't the way she wanted it. So we grabbed the event manager and asked them if we could, with their assistance, put the blame on one random staffer. So he called in a staffer on their day off. We paid her $300 in cash, and the mother of the bride chewed her out for a couple minutes while we looked disappointed, and then the mother of the bride fired her from the event staffer company, which is just really funny to me that the mother of the bride thought she had the ability to unquestionably fire someone from a career at somewhere else, and it would just totally be accepted. The girl was in on it the whole time, and said that if she could get paid for the entire day of work plus $300 for 45 minutes of work, including driving to the location, she would love it. The rest of the time, the mother of the bride would find things wrong and then say, "Well, this must have been that girl's doing. I'm glad I fired her because she was worthless." And we all just said, "Definitely. Great decision." Made the day so much easier. I really wish this was my idea, but it was the father of the bride's idea. I can only assume he had done this in the past. You know what? Professional fall guy is definitely a career I'm down for. Taking all the blame for something I didn't do, but getting paid handsomely for it? You know what? Sign me up. Fire me 1,000,000,000 times if that's what makes you happy. For $300, I am down. Next story. Not a wedding planner, but I once attended a wedding where the freaking photographer forgot to show up. She penciled in the wrong date or something, and they even held off the ceremony for an hour trying to reach her. It turned out she was on location somewhere else or otherwise unavailable. I'm not a nuclear physicist, but I saw a meltdown that day, and it was the bride's mother. I'm surprised any of us are still alive. What ended up happening was someone ran out to Walmart and bought them out of those little Kodak disposables, and everyone just took candid snaps. That's kind of fun though, like a group project of wedding photography. Is it what the couple getting married may have wanted? Probably not. But is it not much more memorable that way? Of being like, oh, who took this one? I wonder if it was Jeremy. You know, just going back, looking through the photos that everyone took and seeing everyone's own distinct style, I guess. I think it would be fun. Next story. Not a wedding planner, but a photographer's assistant. During the speeches, the photographer had me duck to the back of the room to grab his backpack full of kit from where it was perched on an unused stage. No problem. I snuck in and grabbed it quickly. The bag was unzipped. Lenses and flashes spilled everywhere with a gigantic crash and clatter onto the wooden floor from shoulder height. I scrambled to pick up the pieces while the whole reception turned and watched me in complete silence. Finally, red-faced, I managed to gather all the bits from under people's tables and escape to the hallway where the poor photographer surveyed the damage. One of his lovely flashes, the oldest one and the first big bit of the kit he bought himself, was broken beyond repair. The photos managed to continue for the rest of the night even though he didn't have the 2 flashes he'd planned on. But the terrible crash during the speeches and my terrified face rummaging around people's legs couldn't have been a happy inclusion to the special night. I still got paid, but I never worked a wedding again. I also have a lot of stories about waitressing at weddings, but none of my mishaps there were quite so spectacular. Next story. Obligatory, not a wedding planner, but my son was the ring bearer and my daughter was the flower girl for my brother's wedding this summer. It was an out-of-town big wedding. I realized while the groomsmen are getting changed that I left my son's dress shoes at home, so he either walks down the aisle barefoot or in socks, or in his super awesome Spider-Man light-up shoes. And then my daughter, for at the time, is distraught because the 11-year-old bridesmaid was taunting her that her flowers were fake and everyone else's are real, so Cue crying. So my barefoot son escorts my crying daughter who is throwing fake flowers like baseballs down the aisle. Next story. Rant incoming. I am getting married in a little less than a month, and I feel like our wedding planner has added to the stress a lot. She didn't remind us of any payments like she said she would. We paid everything without issue, but she never brought it up, except for hers, which was still a week late. She only ever sent us 2 design ideas that were taken straight from my fiance's Pinterest. We were worried about money, and overall we were about 50% over budget. This is why we got a wedding planner. We had no idea what wedding things cost, and we wanted to make sure our expectations for various parts of the wedding were realistic. She never gave us reminders about things such as, you need to do X by Y date, even the marriage license we went to get without her ever mentioning it. Overall, I feel like we are mature enough that we're able to stay on top of things, but the wedding planner made it so much more stressful. We're only a few weeks away and still haven't planned the ceremony. All the reservations are made, we just haven't gotten a play-by-play made up yet. I'm actually having a talk with her today. We still need her help on the day of the wedding, so I don't feel like we can fire her, but she's done about, 10% of what we were expecting, and has overall felt more like someone we had to keep in the loop, rather than someone that was doing that for us. Anyway, yeah. That has been bugging me lately and felt kind of relevant. Next story. Caterer checking in. I've catered over 100 weddings in my day and never really ruined anything or had any big disasters, but I have a story of a client ruining my night. It was a destination wedding at a private residence, 4 hours from my home base at a 25,000 square foot vacation house near a ski resort. The clients were friends and one of my original regular customers at my restaurant. In fact, they had their first date at my place. The bride was very insistent about having a non-traditional reception. She wanted a running cocktail party where different food and drink stations came out throughout the day/night with no traditional sit-down dinner. The main meal part of the night was small plates served dim sum/tapas style. We had 10 items on the menu and my staff would walk carts up and down the tent passing out various plates. So if a cart went by with something you liked, you took it. If not, you waited for the next cart. In our last meeting with the clients and the wedding planner, everyone decided that it was important for the bride and groom to have a speech welcoming everyone and to briefly explain how dinner was going to work. On the day of, despite being reminded, the bride neglected to do this. When my staff descended upon the tent, people were confused, taking anything that came by their table, being upset that they didn't get other things. After the initial crush, things settled down and actually went quite well. After dinner, the bride and groom give thank you speeches. When the bride gets up to speak, the first thing she says is that she's sorry dinner didn't go as she planned, and hopes that everyone wasn't disappointed. I was on the edge of the tent with the WP, and my heart just sunk, and I wanted to hide in the corner. The wedding planner was pissed and took her aside to tell her about the inappropriateness of her statement. This is the point in the story where I tell you that dinner was an hour and a half late because after the initial pictures, the bride didn't like her eyelashes and disappeared for over an hour to redo her makeup, during which we'd run out of appetizers. We had enough for an hour-long cocktail reception, not a 2.5-hour one, not to mention how the timing affected the timing of dinner food. Because they were friends, especially the groom, who is paying for the wedding approximately $125,000, they asked me to defer $10,000 of my $25,000 bill for a week after the wedding, and come final payment time, predictable, the bride throws in a faux apology. I couldn't cash that check fast enough. TLDR, bride threw me under the bus to her guests. Next story. Not a wedding planner, I know. But a funny story from my wedding. What we later found out was that the DJ, who was supposed to do our wedding, bailed at the last minute. So the owner of the DJ service had to scramble and send someone she didn't know, and it totally backfired. After all the toasts and stuff, we go up and tell him we're ready to do the first dance. What song are you dancing to? I tell him, I don't have that one. What the hell? Luckily, I had driven my car to the reception even though I hadn't planned to, and had the CD in my car. Once the dance floor opens up, he starts playing the worst selection of music ever, including songs we had explicitly on our do not play list. It doesn't take long for us to realize the guy is high as balls on ice, and he's completely out of it. Needless to say, the dance floor empties out for a long time. Then he plays Billie Jean, at which point people come back and start dancing. So, in his drugged up brain, he then proceeds to try and play the entire Thriller album album. I had to go stop him after 4 songs. Anyway, it didn't ruin the wedding by any sense, but was definitely bizarre and annoying at the time, although funny now. Next story. I've worked at tons of weddings, from little get-togethers on the beach to $500,000 galas in Manhattan. Here's a story about how the wedding party contributed to making things lousy all around. I met the couple at a great location near the beach. I was told by the lady that they were having a family reunion. We later worked out the menu, budget, arrangements, etc., and they put down the 50% deposit. The remaining 50% was due 48 hours before the event, which was in about 4 months. About a month before the family reunion, she lets out, "Oops, it's actually a wedding." She said she had read online that the wedding industry rips people off, and it was better to not say it's a wedding but some other type of party. Jeez. So we made some adjustments now that I actually knew it was a wedding. 48-hour countdown comes and, no payment from them. I almost blew it off, but decided to put up my own money and do the job anyway, paying for all the rentals, all the food and staff, etc. The wedding and reception gets underway, and still no payment, and no mention of it from them. They then proceed to be rude and abusive to my staff. This is a party of about 150 people. They slam the bar we'd set up and everyone is pounding vodka. About 2 hours into it and everyone is hammered and the complaints and abuse are pouring in non-stop. My staff remained pretty chilled about it. We'd worked many weddings and receptions before. We knew this type of behavior was atypical. So as things died down, I had to go deal with getting paid. I finally got it, but not before getting a drunk earful from the bride and her mother who were trying to work out why they should get some discounts. There were at least 50 people who were plastered. I offered to let the police sort it out. That must have gotten their attention. They paid up, about $5,000 in cash, which was weird, and then they left. These people obviously thrived on abusive relationships. They wanted to have a crappy time and wanted someone to blame it on, and hey, they got it. Out of all the weddings I've been to and worked at, these people took the cake. Literally. OP, you are better than you should be. You fronted the 50% without any promise of actually getting paid. I feel like these people could have scammed you so hard. I'm glad you didn't, by the way. I'm very glad you did not get scammed. But putting up 50% for that is crazy. Kinder than I would be, I'll tell you that. Next story. I went to a wedding for a doomed couple. The mother of the groom gave them 10 months during her speech at the reception. I think they lasted 18, though. A few months later, these newlyweds were at our wedding, and he hit on every girl there, including my wife. We didn't see them again after that. Next story. When my little sister went to get married, her fiance's aunt-in-law was a wedding planner, and they were getting married in his home state. Well, since we didn't really know anyone up there, my dad decided to let her plan the wedding with a budget of $35,000. The day before the wedding, she presents my dad with another bill of $35,000 and says the wedding can't go on unless he pays it. Luckily, my dad had just sold some farm equipment from our dairy, so he has the cash and he pays it. The wedding does turn out to be really nice, but afterwards my dad still received calls from the DJ, the photographer, and other people saying she hadn't paid them. My dad doesn't want to press charges since now she's related, but she didn't think that a lot of her business came from the dairy industry, and my dad is well known in it. So he quietly let it be known what she did, and she stopped getting any business from the dairy industry. She still claims she took a loss on the whole thing, even though she built a brand new addition to her house after the wedding. Next story. I've worked at a lot of weddings in various capacities, with budgets from a few $1,000s to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I've found that if the wedding party has a good attitude, everything just seems to work out for them, and that good attitude was coming from a long way back. I've seen lots of little miracles happen surrounding weddings of people with a good and go-with-the-flow attitude. I've also seen a few wedding parties with bad attitudes, looking for someone to blame or something to go wrong, to pin as a target for why things screwed up, and that screwed-up attitude came from a long way back. You get the wedding you and your wedding party deserve. Next story. I'm an event planner and actively avoid working on weddings simply because the chances of something going wrong is too high. At a recent ball I put on, everything had been planned down to the tiniest detail until a group turned up 45 minutes late and demanded an entire table after everyone was seated. They basically threw a tantrum in front of all the other guests, including the client, until my team simply gave up our table. We ended up working 19 hours that day. They went on to abuse the band and DJ, and generally ruin people's nights. Unfortunately, no matter how much planning you put into an event, the guests can always screw it up. Next story. My sister is a professional cake artist and made a coconut cream cake for a bride in June. She has 2 jobs and was scheduled to work during the actual wedding, so I was charged with transportation and setup. Everything was fine, except the wedding was in June, and before the ceremony was even over, the coconut cream filling started to melt from inside the cake, causing it to slide. This 3-tier white cake looked like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, so I managed to flag down the venue coordinator and had them pull the cake from display just moments before it completely fell apart. Thank God it was in their kitchen. So I had to run to Tom Thumb, who makes beautiful deli cakes, and purchase 2 coconut cakes and basically make a cake for them to cut for pictures. Since the collapsed cake had fallen while on a sterile kitchen surface and was still edible, it just wasn't pretty at all anymore. The bride actually had no idea that anything had happened, but I was in a sheer panic for almost 2 hours. Next story. My mom was the wedding coordinator at our church for several years, and I somehow got roped into helping. Most of the ruined weddings were just random stuff blown out of proportion by the bride. Examples: dead butterflies. We told them they would likely die and they ignored our warnings. People freaking out because they weren't allowed to dance, clearly stated in bold letters in the contract. Our church is stuffy and run by old people. Steps to take to not have a ruined wedding. Don't trust the DJ to have your music. Every DJ I've worked with was either high, incompetent, or both. Have a CD or iPod with the music on standby. Read your contracts. They will be enforced. It's your day. Speak up. It can't be fixed if you're not willing to complain a little. Read the damn contracts again. Any changes to a contract should be done in writing and signed by everyone. Don't invite people who cause drama. Yes, they'll have a fit, but at least it won't be during the ceremony or during the party. Butterflies won't live to be used. Just do bubbles like everyone else. Next story. Last year, a friend of mine got married, and the bride's mom was an emotional wreck throughout the whole process. She was paying for everything, so the decisions really came down to her. She fired several wedding planners before finding one that she found suitable. Her daughter had no say in what was at the wedding. The day of the wedding, her mom just kept complaining of everything that was wrong. During the reception, she disrupted the best man during a toast and literally apologized for the outcome of the wedding. Everyone looked at her like, what the hell are you talking about? My friend will never go to his in-laws again because of what she did to their wedding. Interrupting the best man during a speech is insane. What couldn't possibly wait? What did she say during that interjection of hers? It better have been important, but who do I know it wasn't? I hope everything aside from the wedding and that marriage is going incredibly, though, because they deserve it. Next story. I used to work as a banquet server, and I've never seen a wedding planner ruin an event, but some are nightmares to deal with, and they really do like to use the banquet staff as scapegoats for every little thing. It can be an incredibly stressful job, though, depending mostly on clients who can be nightmares themselves. I've heard more stories and had more first-hand experience with photographers who ruin the event, or at least make trouble. I worked one event where the photographer was super creepy and kept following me around trying to stick his business card on my trays or even in my pocket as I walked by. He got drunk and started snapping shots of me and the other girls I worked with instead of, taking pictures during the bride and groom's first dance. It was so uncomfortable and we were afraid that the bride and groom would file complaints. They didn't though, thankfully. Also, the photographer for a friend's wedding completely screwed off after. He sent a few proofs, but did not deliver on his contract. He came highly recommended by many, but he skipped out on several people afterwards. Next story. Morning of my brother's wedding. All the men are out having a round of golf outside of town, while the women go to the salons to get their hair and nails touched up for the big day. Beautiful, sunny, playing a great round, and one of my brother's best in his life. The sun and stars have aligned. Then, the best man's phone rings. Answers said phone is chipper and cordial. It's the rental place that has the rest of our party's tuxedos and they're ready for pickup. I'm Canadian military though, and the sister-in-law wanted me in uniform. No tux for me, huzzah! All appears well as the best man goes through the list. Pants are pressed, shoes were shined, vests are the proper color, jackets had the right flowers to be pinned on. What? At that last statement, the best man's face turns a dazzling array of colors that I had only previously seen at a dance club. White to green to red to purple to what I only can describe as crimson murder. The jackets are not ready and had not been ordered. Wedding is in 4 hours. Mass amounts of swearing ensues. Best man hangs up and without saying a word, starts heading to his car to return to the city. A 45-minute drive that he achieved in about 20. Best man had the original contract in the car and showed it to the company, proving that the jackets were in fact on the order. End of the day, after using quite possibly every threat known to mankind, jackets are procured from another rental place about an hour before the wedding, and everything went off without a hitch afterwards. Good times. TLDR, morning of the wedding, tux jackets for groomsmen not ready. Managed to get jackets an hour before the wedding started. And this right here is why I could not be a best man. Nope, absolutely not. I can hardly plan things for myself. Planning all this for someone else and then having to go and fix something like this? Like, what do you mean there are no jackets, dude? I would lose my damn mind. I would not be able to handle it as well as he did. Like, I'm sure he absolutely went ballistic on the people working there, but I wouldn't have been able to follow it up with actually finding jackets, I don't think. He did good work that day. Clearly, the right choice for best man. Next story. I used to work for a company that did wedding photography/video. So this bride buys our biggest package, 16 hours of coverage, from the moment she wakes up to the end of the reception. Photographer goes and covers the event. On the way back home, he stops to grab a bite at a burger joint. After eating his burger, he goes back to his car. The car had been broken into, and the camera with all the cards and all the pictures of the day had been stolen. Bride and mother did not take it very well. Of course, all the money was refunded, but still, it's not the money they wanted. Tears were shed, screaming was done, and everyone felt crappy. It didn't ruin the day, but it did ruin the days after. New company rule. You can't stop anywhere until those cards are safe and sound in the office or at your home. Okay, look. I'm not trying to victim blame here, but the dude should not just have his camera stuff sitting in his car visible. Throw that crap in the trunk. This sounds like someone walked past, saw a bunch of stuff to steal, and did so. But also, yeah, leaving that in your car at all was ridiculous. Just go home, deal with that, then grab something to eat. Or, if you're gonna grab something, try a drive-thru, man. Next story. When I was younger, I worked as a caterer at a banquet hall that served weddings. I have so many stories, but this one is my favorite. The bride supplied the hall with a large floral arrangement with bamboo candle centerpieces. The mother of the bride insisted the centerpieces should be lit, even though the candles just looked like a decoration. I went around lighting about 25 of the 50 tables, and heard crackling behind me. I turned around and all of the centerpieces were on fire. This was 10 minutes before the hall opened, so all the guests were in the lobby looking at us, frantically putting out fires with a fire extinguisher. Not a good day. Next story. This probably would have been better if it weren't targeted at wedding planners, particularly since moms are a force of nature at ruining weddings. My buddy's mom tried to burn the church down mid-ceremony. To make it prettier, his mom wrapped these pillar candles with fake flowers. So, midway through the ceremony, the candle had burned down enough so that the flame got near the fake flowers, and hey, they catch fire really quickly. Mom at least handled her mistake, vaulting the pews to get to the front and extinguished the fire quickly. I was talking to my buddy about it later. He saw his mom doing it and saw it was a fire hazard. He commented to his mom that they'll catch fire, but her response? "Don't worry, honey. The candles are dripless. It'll be fine." Little did she know, it was not, in fact, fine. I hope she at least owned up to her mistake, right? Please tell me she didn't be like, "Oh my goodness, I wonder why that happened. If only someone had warned me." That would make me crash out. Next story. I'm not a wedding planner, but I have to tell this story somewhere. Went to an incredibly fancy wedding at a country club. The groom and his cousins, best man, started a business together, and were both worth several million. Both of them were in their early 30s at the time. The groom probably spent $100,000 to $200,000 for the wedding, which, where I'm from, is a lot of money. Anyway, the best man gets trashed, and it's his turn to give the best man speech. If anyone has seen The Wedding Singer, Funniest Home Videos, or any movie with the most embarrassing, crazy best man speech, this guy surpassed them by a freaking mile. He immediately starts off talking crap about the groom, then proceeds to start telling stories about how many girls the groom has banged, how big a hound he is, and how he has cheated on the bride multiple times. This is all about 3 minutes into the speech, and by this time, the other guys in the wedding party are trying to take the mic away, but this guy is not giving up without a fight. He takes off running around the dance floor screaming, "It's my time now! It's my time now! Let me finish!" Finally, they pry the mic away from the dude and two of the guys take him outside. It was insane. I know there's a video of this somewhere because they hired two videographers. I keep waiting for the day this pops up on the internet and goes viral. Most awkward situation I've ever seen. Next story. Not a wedding planner, but a DJ who has done many, many weddings. Some highlights. Maitre d's. I've worked in hundreds of venues. I know two of them worth their salt. On more than one occasion, I've had to remind them, I'm working for the bride and groom, not the venue. Middle of a crazy dance set? No, cake cutting now. No way. One time, groom's family hated bride. To be fair, bride's mom had always drilled in, meet a nice man and get married. It was also like her third engagement, first one to go all the way. Another time, the officiant was an hour and a half late. Didn't answer calls either. Her excuse was, well, I didn't know when I would get here, so I didn't take your calls. She was allowed to officiate the ceremony and then was asked to leave. Then, not mine but a friend's, bride and groom were having second thoughts. Smartly decided to not go through with the wedding, and that's where the smarts ended. Decided to still have the wedding and collect the money and split it. Somehow wedding party got wind of it. Everyone wound up taking their envelopes/gifts back, ripping them open or taking them home. And then food. I've had venues run out of food. One happened with a 90-person wedding. Not a big one. The thing was they planned for 100 guests. They should have had extra. One time, a venue's AC had broken for the room they rented. Let's call it X. They had a slightly bigger, nice hall. Let's call it Y. When I arrived at X to set it up, it must have been 90 plus in the room. I actually went and found the manager and told him. His response was, they rented X, they get X, not Y. I called the groom's father, who happened to be huge, who said they were using room Y. I have no clue exactly what he said, but I have never seen someone walk more carefully on eggshells. And then, last one, bride's grandfather had Alzheimer's. We talked earlier in the night and he seemed fine. He asked for a slow country dance song. I played it and he and his granddaughter danced. Super sweet. The bride was younger and liked house/electronic music. I've a packed dance floor. He comes up ranting and screaming about this garbage music I'm playing and why I didn't play his request. I try reasoning it out, but that isn't happening. Aunt finally comes over, apologizes for him, and pulls him away. Walking away, boom, falls flat on his back, injures himself. As he's getting wheeled away, he's screaming at me that it's your fault! You did this, blah, blah, blah. Bride was in tears. Luckily, she knew Gramps wasn't all there and that I did what I could to defuse the situation. Still sucked. Next story. Bride here. On my wedding day, the bridesmaids and I were running late. When we got there, the wedding coordinator at the church and my husband's aunt came in while I was completely naked trying to change. I had to hold my gown bag in front of me because they were refusing to leave the room. My maid of honor took them outside and had an all-out fight with them. They threatened to make her leave and to start the wedding without me. Not sure how that would have happened though. My husband just standing at the altar by himself, I guess. I was so mad when I walked down the aisle that even in the pictures I was completely flush in my face and chest. During the ceremony, all I could think about was punching these two women. It caused a lot of friction between my mother-in-law and myself for about 2 years when I got pregnant with my daughter. Now we have a great relationship. Bottom line, just chill. Don't make the bride or anyone else upset. It's also just one day in your life. Next story. I planned and very nearly ruined my own wedding. I was trying to please my best friend, sister, and sisters-in-law who were 4 out of my 5 bridesmaids. I'm a big hippie and wanted to have a cool, laid-back wedding, no bridezilla crap. I let them have a lot of freedom in choosing their own cut of dress, as long as they were all the same color. I wanted to have the final say on anything they picked. My original colors were navy and turquoise, but none of these female dogs could agree on exactly what color turquoise is, and also complained that they didn't look good in it. So I threw in a couple more colors until I had a sort of peacock palette. They still didn't like anything. Finally, I got sick of trying to please all of them and said, fine, here's a list of colors you can pick from. Nothing too short, nothing blingy, nothing strapless. We'll tie the look together with matching shoes and accessories. The week before the wedding, they finally got their dresses. All of these harlots picked dresses up to their butt cheeks with a bling all over the place. All different shoes, and none of them wore the jewelry I handmade for them. I was too stressed to care. I just went with it. Thank God for my mother and mother-in-law who went last minute balls to the wall decorating the reception hall and ended up adding all the colors they had so everything matched. TLDR, all of my bridesmaids but one were whiny and selfish, and I ended up catering to their tastes instead of my own. Next story. Photographer here. My mother and aunt run a wedding planning and venue hobby business. The only ruining of a wedding I've witnessed working their vow renewals was when the bridal party was 2 hours late. They got secretly drunk and expected me to babysit 4 very little kids. Wedding ceremony was supposed to start at noon sharp. I show up at 9 a.m. to go over the last-minute details, make sure all my equipment will be set up correctly, and begin taking pictures of everyone getting ready. 20 minutes later, the bride and bridesmaids decided that they're going to get their nails done. Oh, by the way, since you'll be the only one here, can you watch the 2 babies that are both under 8 months old, the 1-year-old and the 3-year-old? We don't want to take them with us. So, at 11:45, they finally get back, spend an hour and a half doing 4 people's hair, all the while whining and crying that everyone's late and this day is a mess. The bride kept getting so angry when her husband kept calling her asking what was taking so long. Finally, at 2:15, the ceremony starts, and the rest of the day was about as wrecky as it started. Next story. Not a wedding planner, yeah, I know, but I'm a traveling DJ. I hadn't done weddings before. I was mostly a teen party / other crazy non-scripted events, which means I'm usually allowed to do my own thing when I'm up there. A coworker gets wind of this and asks me if I could DJ her wedding, and I'm pretty hesitant. However, she says she trusts me. I, not knowing what to expect, agree after much begging / pleading from her. The reason was because I wouldn't charge her like any other DJ would. I, obviously, was much cheaper. Plus, I had no idea that for some reason everyone adds a $500 charge to everything wedding related, or so it would seem at least. So I get there and I start playing dinner music. I try to keep it classy and jazzy, but then after the first dance, they ask me to throw a crazy country party. I was like, what? I'm not ready for this. I don't listen to country music, and I don't even know what kind of country music you dance to, or that you even dance to it. I got through it, but to this day, I do not think I did a good job. The bride was very nice about it, though. Narrator's commentary. OP, that is not on you. You did your best, I guarantee it. You got thrown a crazy curveball, and they insisted, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And to their credit, hey, they didn't complain. I'm glad to hear the bride was nice about it, actually. Maybe you didn't do as bad of a job as you think, OP. Next story. My mother ruined my wedding by not coming. In fact, no one from my mom's side came except for my sister. Her excuse was that she had to work. She tried to make it up to me by being there when my daughter was born, but it doesn't make up for anything. Especially when I asked her if she could help me a week after my baby was born since I needed help getting around, and she said no. My mom is worthless. Next story. My girlfriend in college invited me to her older sister's wedding. Very small ceremony in North Carolina in the MOB's dancing studio. Somehow, through great pressure, I agreed to push play on the remote for the music. Song 1, they walk in. Song 2, they walk out. Easy, they said. Since I'd never been in the studio before, I practiced on the stereo using the remote from the front row, sitting with the bride's younger sister, my girlfriend. If I pressed pause and skipped to the next track, it would wait there till I pressed play for them while walking out. Waiting that long during the ceremony, that I was legitimately distracted with a tearful girlfriend, the entire stereo shut itself off. I managed to get the music playing while they were halfway down the aisle. They tried to make fun of me for it, but I said that I got caught up in the ceremony. They like that. Next story. This isn't so bad, but I did drop a glass ball on a lady by accident, and she ripped her dress trying to avoid getting hit by it. This was about a decade ago. A friend got me a job setting up wedding receptions, $100 per event, tax-free. It was a good gig for me back then. I was excited. So we set the wedding up. It was at an old plantation house, and we were instructed to hang decorations off the porch. My buddies did that while I set up the chairs. The reception went into full swing, and we left for a couple of hours to go watch a pay-per-view boxing match that was being screened at a friend's house. So far, so good. We returned to the reception sometime later, ready to break everything down. Boss lady tells me to go grab those decorations off the porch. They were paper cones with ribbons that tied to the porch's railing. And also, what I did not realize, they contained a glass globe with a candle inside, which was delicately perched on top of the cone. The first few I grabbed had no globe on the cone. In retrospect, this was probably because the wind had already blown the globes off. And because I had not set them up myself, I had no expectation of encountering glassware. So I was kind of grabbing them haphazardly. Everything was going well, until I haphazardly grabbed one with the globe still in it and sent a melon-sized hunk of glass hurtling towards the ground where the bride's sister just happened to be sitting on some steps. Now, to say this woman had cat-like reflexes does her a disservice. I like to think cats have this lady-like reflexes. She juked left at the last second and avoided being hit. Keep in mind, this all happened so fast that I didn't have time to yell so much as a "Look out below!" It could have been much worse. As it stood, she popped a strap on her dress when she jumped out of the way and was pretty upset. Needless to say, I did not get to set up any more events. Next story. I have a story from both sides of the veil. 1. As a wedding photographer, I nearly dropped the bride's rings through the slats of the desk while setting up a ring shot. If they hadn't been caught in the nick of time, they would have fallen about 10 feet under the deck into under-deck foliage, i.e., I would have been up Crap Creek. I now only touch rings in areas where they can be retrieved if dropped. 2. As a bride, we got married in a small town, and there were very few options for officiants. I left the task of finding names to my mother and set up a meeting with the only one my mom said was available. She seemed nice at first, except she refused to do a rehearsal the night before because she didn't think we needed it. I managed to get her to come early and do one before our guests arrived. Cut to that day. She showed up with a scowl on her face and said, "Well, you wanted me here. What do you want me to do?" Picture me in my dress all done up with a look of shock on my face. We stumbled through a rehearsal, with me basically directing everyone. Needless to say, there were several missteps during the ceremony, not the least of which was the damn officiant calling my husband Douglas the entire time. His name is actually Nicholas. Oh, okay. So having the rings anywhere they could fall is asking for trouble, to be fair. I wouldn't even get close to a situation like that. If they asked me to do that, I would say, "This is on you. This is all your risk. You get that, right?" And then for the officiant, ooh, Opie, I am sorry about that, but I bet you called your husband Douglas for a while, didn't you? If you didn't, you should have. That sounds pretty funny. Anyway, that's the last story for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one.